Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be cracking open the BABOK Guide, version 3.
The Business Analysis Body of Knowledge Guide, version 3.
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful.
And it sounds a little intimidating.
It does sound very intimidating, but it's really not.
It's not. It's a really fascinating look at how organizations go about solving problems and making things work better.
It's a toolkit.
Yeah.
For making smarter business decisions.
Okay, so instead of just reading from the textbook and throwing jargon around, let's imagine you're dealing with, you get that app update that that is so frustrating. You're like, why did they do this? Well, chapters 1 through 3 of the BABOK Guide introduce us to 6 core concepts. They say these are the foundation of business analysis. And we've got, change.
Yeah, need solutions, stakeholders,
value,
and context. You got it.
So it's like one of those nature shows where everything's connected.
Exactly. And so, like you were saying, you get that app update and you're like, why?
Yeah.
A business analyst wouldn't just say, deal with it. They would look at the need. What is the need driving this change? Is there a security flaw? Are there new features that customers have been asking for? Then they would look at the stakeholders. So not just the company that put out the app, but the developers, the customers, you, everybody that's involved, and how they're impacted by this change. And then finally, they would determine how to measure the value. So is this app update actually a success? Did it fix the problems? Are people using the new features? And that's really what it's all about.
So it's not just about the tech stuff, but understanding how decisions impact people.
Absolutely. And how people impact the decisions as well.
Yeah.
Because business analysis is not done in a vacuum. And there are different approaches depending on the context. So the way that a small startup might tackle a new feature is very different from the way that a massive corporation might have to handle a system overhaul, for instance.
That makes a ton of sense. So once we've kind of laid that foundation with the core concepts, chapters 4 and 5 talk about the how. So that's elicitation and requirements. And now imagine, putting on your detective hat for the organization.
Okay.
But instead of looking for fingerprints, you're looking for clues about problems and opportunities.
Yeah, it's gathering information.
Yeah.
It's like detective work. It's doing interviews, holding focus groups, analyzing, mountains of documents just to figure out what's really going on and what the organization really needs.
And then the aha moment when you get to turn that mess of information into an actual plan.
Right, and that's where requirements come in.
Okay.
Because imagine trying to build a house without a blueprint.
Oh, total chaos.
It's chaos. And that's what it's like trying to solve a business problem without clearly defined requirements.
Okay.
So requirements are like the DNA of the solution.
Yeah.
They guide every decision and they make sure that everyone is on the same page.
So they're like the instruction manual for fixing the problem. Exactly.
That got to be specific, measurable.
Specific, measurable.
It's adaptable to changes, right?
Absolutely. So just like that app that you were talking about might get another update.
Right.
Requirements are constantly being reviewed and they're managed to make sure that they stay relevant. Nothing in business has ever truly set it and forget it.
Constantly evolving, just like this deep dive. Now, once you've got the blueprint, chapter 6 tells us you need a strategy. You need a vision for the future.
Right, because it's not enough to just fix what's broken.
Okay.
You want to aim for something better.
Right, so it's not just putting a Band-Aid on the problem, but getting to the root cause.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So business analysts use techniques like benchmarking. So that's looking at how your organization stacks up against competitors or industry leaders to figure out, okay, where do we stand?
Yeah.
And then they also do things like SWOT analysis. So looking at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats to really try to understand the bigger picture. Okay, so I'm seeing how this is all coming together now. But even with a really solid plan, you got to make sure it's actually worth the effort, right?
Right, because everything comes with a price tag.
Yeah.
Every solution, every change. So business analysts don't just look at the cost of implementing something new. They look at the potential value. And this can be financial. So increased profits, reduced expenses.
Right.
But it can also be things like improved efficiency, happier customers, a stronger brand reputation.
Okay, so making sure that the juice is worth the squeeze.
Exactly.
I love it. All right, so we've laid the groundwork here. We've got the core concepts. We've got the importance of strategy.
We've got all the pieces.
We've got all the pieces. But how does this actually play out in the real world?
That's where things get really interesting.
And that, my friends, is where we'll pick up in part 2 of our deep dive into the world of business analysis.
Welcome back, ready to dive into the real nitty-gritty of how we actually put these concepts into action.
Let's do it. I'm ready. We've got our detective hats. We figured out our strategy.
All right, so chapters 7 through 11 of the BABOK guide take us deeper into some more specialized areas. So it's like going from that, kind of rough sketch to like the full-blown blueprint.
Okay, so we did the detective work. Now it's time to actually make the plan.
So chapter 7 is all about requirements analysis and design definition.
Okay.
So now we're talking about like really the nuts and bolts of how do you build a solution.
Okay.
And it's like, remember we talked about requirements being like the DNA?
Yeah.
Well, this is like translating that DNA into like an actual plan.
Yeah.
Imagine you wouldn't just go to a builder and say, I want a house, right?
You need a blueprint, you need material lists.
Exactly. You need detailed instructions.
Yeah.
So business analysts use things like models and diagrams to visually represent how that solution's going to work.
Okay.
So you might have like flow charts mapping out a customer journey through like an online store, for example. Or you might have data models that show how information is going to flow between different systems.
Okay.
But it's all about creating a roadmap.
So it's like a roadmap for everyone. So like the developers and the designers and everybody involved can look at it and go, okay, this is how we're going to actually solve this problem.
Exactly. And then, just like with any good construction project, there's got to be evaluation. You got to have that inspection.
Right. You got to make sure it's up to code.
Right. So chapter 8 is all about solution evaluation.
Okay.
And that's the reminder that this isn't a set it and forget it. You don't just put a solution out there and walk away.
Right.
You have to constantly be measuring, is it actually working? Is it solving the problem? Is it meeting those needs that we identified? So let's say you're trying to, I don't know, improve the online checkout process for a clothing retailer or something.
Yeah.
A business analyst might create a customer journey map and actually see where are people like falling off.
Interesting. So they're looking for those pain points.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, are they getting all the way to like the shipping costs and then they're abandoning their cart?
Yeah.
That tells you, okay, we need to look at our shipping costs.
Right.
Maybe offer free shipping or something.
Interesting.
But it's about really understanding why something is or isn't working.
So it's not just about checking the box and saying, yes, we solved it. It's like understanding the nuance.
Exactly.
Okay, got it.
It's about saying, okay, well, this new system that we put into place, it's not actually being used. Why not? Did we not train people on it properly? Is the interface too confusing?
Right.
There's got to be a reason why it's not being adopted.
Man, it sounds like business analysts need to be like part detective, part psychologist, part tech whiz.
And don't forget diplomat.
Oh, right.
Because remember, we're always dealing with people.
Right, human beings.
And that's where chapter 9 comes in. So chapter 9 is all about, those behavioral characteristics.
Okay, time to brush up on our people skills.
Exactly. So what makes a business analyst truly effective, especially when you're dealing with, other human beings?
Yeah, because it's messy.
It is messy.
Yeah.
So things like, having strong ethics, being accountable, being adaptable to change. Think about it. If you're working with somebody, you're more likely to trust them if they're upfront with you, if they take responsibility for their actions, if they can roll with the punches when things change.
Right. You don't want somebody who's going to like crumble under pressure or blame everybody else when things go wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so those soft skills, especially in a field like business analysis, where you're constantly navigating different perspectives, different priorities, those are essential for building consensus and trust.
Right. So it's not just about being right.
It's not just about being right.
It's about bringing people along with you.
Exactly.
On the journey.
Exactly. It's a very collaborative process.
Okay.
So you've got the right attitude, you know how to, chuckles, be a human being. What else do you need? Well, chapter 10 is all about the more practical side of things. So that's, the tools and techniques that business analysts actually use.
Okay, let's break open that toolkit.
All right. So some of these, you've probably heard of them: brainstorming, SWOT analysis, those are classics for a reason. But then you've got things like data modeling. So that's creating those visual representations of how data is structured. You've got decision analysis, which is using models to weigh different options and make informed choices.
So it's like a whole Swiss Army knife of problem-solving tools.
It is.
Okay, so with so many options, how do you know which one to use?
That's where experience and good judgment come in.
Right.
A skilled business analyst knows which tool is right for the job.
Right.
And sometimes you even combine different techniques to really get the best results.
So it's not enough to just have the tool you have to know how to use it properly.
Right. It's like having a fancy kitchen gadget but not knowing how to cook. You can have all the tools in the world, But if you don't know how to use them, it's not going to do you much good.
Right.
So a good business analyst is like a master chef, right?
Mm-hmm.
They know which ingredients to combine. They know how to adjust the recipe based on what's going on.
Okay, now I'm hungry for more.
Chuckles.
Chuckles. But we've covered a lot of ground here, but how does this actually play out in, like, specific areas of business?
That is an excellent question.
And that's what we're going to talk about in part 3. We are back for the final part of our business analysis deep dive, and I am ready to tackle these last few chapters.
All right, so we've got chapters 11 through 16 of the BABOK guide.
Okay.
And these are going to take us on a tour of how all these concepts and techniques that we've been talking about actually play out in different areas of business.
So, like, we're taking our toolkit on the road.
Exactly.
And seeing how it works in different environments.
So we'll be exploring things like business architecture, business process management, business intelligence, information technology.
Oh, we're getting into the good stuff now.
The really good stuff.
This is like seeing business analysis in action.
Exactly.
Across, like, all these different departments.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So first up, business architecture.
Okay, this sounds impressive.
It sounds very important.
It does.
And it is important because business architecture is like the blueprint for the entire organization.
Oh, wow. Okay, so this is like not just like one little problem. This is like...
This is the big picture.
The whole thing.
The 70,000-foot view.
I like it.
So it's about aligning an organization's strategy, so their goals, their values, with how it actually operates.
Oh.
So think of a company like a giant machine, right?
Okay.
Lots of moving parts.
Yeah.
Business architecture. Make sure all those parts are working together smoothly and efficiently.
So they're like the conductor of an orchestra?
That is a great analogy.
So making sure everybody's in sync?
Making sure everybody's in sync. And, you know, just like a conductor needs to understand how each instrument contributes to the music.
Right.
A business architect needs to understand how all the different parts of the organization contribute to the overall success.
Okay.
So they use tools like capability mapping, which is really just identifying what the organization is good at, where its strengths and weaknesses are.
Okay.
Customer journey mapping.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit.
We did, yeah.
Yeah.
So really understanding how do customers interact with our business from start to finish.
Okay.
And they're looking for, you know, where are things working well and where is the music maybe a little off key.
I like it. Okay.
So then that leads us perfectly into chapter 12, which is all about business process management.
Okay, so we did the blueprint for the whole organization. Now we're like fine-tuning the gear.
Exactly.
Okay.
So business process management is all about analyzing, streamlining, even automating those everyday tasks, those workflows.
Right.
So let's say you're, I don't know, a clothing retailer again.
Okay.
And you're constantly dealing with like shipping delays.
Yeah, nobody likes that.
Nobody likes it.
Yeah.
So a business analyst might come in and actually map out that entire shipping process.
Okay.
Identify where are the bottlenecks.
Yeah, where are things getting stuck?
Where are things getting stuck? Exactly.
Yeah.
And then suggest ways to make it faster, more efficient.
Okay.
So maybe that's implementing a new inventory management system. Maybe it's, you know, optimizing the warehouse layout. But it's all about making those processes as smooth as possible.
So it's like those home organization shows where they go in and like declutter and optimize everything.
Exactly.
But for businesses.
But for businesses.
I like it.
And speaking of efficiency,
Chapter
13 takes us into the world of business intelligence.
Oh, data.
Data.
It's everywhere.
It is everywhere, and it's powerful.
It is.
And if you know how to use it, it can really unlock incredible insights.
Yeah.
So business intelligence is all about turning raw data.
Right, because data in itself doesn't actually tell us much. We have to interpret it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're turning that raw data into meaningful information that can actually drive better decision-making.
Okay.
So imagine you have like a mountain of sales data.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So you've got all this data about what people are buying, when they're buying it, where they're buying it.
Right.
Business intelligence tools can help you identify trends, patterns, maybe even predict future customer behavior.
So it's like having a crystal ball.
Kind of.
But instead of magic, it's data.
It's data crunching. Exactly.
Okay.
And business analysts play a key role in this by figuring out, okay, what data do we need to collect in the first place?
Right.
How do we analyze it?
Yeah.
And then how do we present that information?
Right. In a way that makes sense.
In a way that's clear and actionable.
Right. Because you can give somebody a spreadsheet with 1 million rows and they're not going to know.
Exactly. It's useless.
Right.
So business analysts are kind of like the storytellers of data.
Right.
They're the ones who are finding those insights.
Yeah.
And then communicating them in a way that people can actually use.
Okay.
All right. So we've talked about business architecture, business process management, business intelligence.
Okay. What's next?
Last but not least, Chapter 14.
Okay.
Information technology.
Okay. So this is where all the tech stuff comes in.
This is where it all comes together.
Yeah.
So everything we've learned, requirements, stakeholders, value, all of that applies to the world of software, apps, websites, all of that.
It's all connected.
It's all connected because in today's world,
right.
Almost every organization relies on technology in some way.
In some way, yeah, absolutely.
So business analysts act as a bridge between the tech folks,
the
developers, the engineers,
right.
and the business folks.
Right, so they have to speak both languages.
You got to speak both languages. And they make sure that the technology solutions that are being developed are actually meeting the organization's needs.
Oh, that's so important.
It is so important.
Because you don't want to spend all this time and money building something that nobody's going to use.
Nobody's going to use.
Because it doesn't actually solve the problem.
It doesn't solve the problem, or it's too hard to use.
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
So, think about, like, if you're building a new website or you're implementing, like, a new CRM system. Business analysts are the ones who are making sure that everybody's on the same page.
They're like the interpreter.
They're the interpreters.
Yeah, between the tech world and the business world.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right, so that brings us to the end of our whirlwind tour through the BABOK Guide.
Wow, what a journey. I feel like we should get, like, frequent flyer miles or something.
Heckles.
Right. But I feel like I have a much better understanding of the work that business analysts do.
Yeah, the fascinating field.
It is, and it's a lot more than I thought it was.
Yeah, a lot of people, they think business analysts, you just, sit in a cubicle and you crunch numbers all day.
Right, it sounds kind of boring.
But it's really not.
It's not.
It's very dynamic.
Yeah.
You're interacting with people, you're solving problems, you're using your creativity.
You're making things better.
You're making things better, exactly.
For everybody.
For everybody.
I like it. All right, well, is there anything else that we should leave our listeners with?
I think the biggest takeaway is that these principles, while they are rooted in the business world,
right,
they're relevant to so many different aspects of life.
That's so true.
So whether you are, leading a team at work,
right,
organizing a project for your kid's school, or even just trying to make a big decision in your own life.
Yeah, like, should I get takeout or cook tonight?
Exactly. Thinking like a business analyst can really help you cut through the noise.
Right.
Focus on what matters and hopefully achieve better outcomes.
I love that.
So next time you're facing a challenge, remember those 6 core concepts.
Right.
Ask the right questions. And don't be afraid to dive deep.
Love it. And on that note, that is all the time we have for today's deep dive.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for being here, and thank you, listeners, for joining us on this journey.
It's been fun.
We'll see you next time.